An injured ant arrives on the shoreline. This ant is from a new world entirely, a world far, far away, the Dark Continent. This world is home to abominations, diseases, monsters, and forces that make everything in the main story of Hunter x Hunter so far seem as if it's all been easy mode. Within the normal pre-established world of Hunter x Hunter, the peak hunters of the world trained for decades straight, meditating and standing in the same spot, punching faster than sound, thousands of times a day. And even with all this tedious training, this new land was seen as an unbeatable land of death. This aforementioned Dark Continent ant, known as a Chimera Ant, has taken up home in a new and weaker world it can conquer easily. With its unique ability that allowed it to survive on hospitable battleground from which it came from, known as phagogenesis. This ability allows the queen to obtain the genetic data of anybody she consumes and bears offspring with that data. This eventually leads to her consuming not only humans, but super enhanced humans that use Nen energy known as hunters. And with her massively enhanced genetic pool creating super beings, such as the royal guards Neferpitou, Youpi, and Poof, that no amount of hunters at the time could ever take down. And you gotta remember, this is a series where tactics and teamwork were everything, to eventually give birth to the strongest force ever to be seen, Meruem. Meruem, with his royal guard, goes to the Eastern Republic of East Gorto and takes over the entire country easily, then proceeds to threaten all of humanity with his presence and his hatred of them. With a power that rivals a state military and the potentiality of creating more powerful fighters that no task force could ever handle, the strongest humans and hunters we knew about were sent in with failsafes to try and trick the ants and hopefully Meruem. The head of the Hunter Association, Netero, and the strongest assassins Silva and Zeno Zoldyck, respectively, along with others on the ground to deal with the royals. Despite this and the preparations put in place, even Netero couldn't stop Meruem without sacrificing himself, leading to Netero using the previously mentioned failsafe. He detonates it, essentially requiring a nuclear bomb released in a confined space to hopefully finish the job, and laced with poisons and radiations, and decades of fight experience with Zeno and the others being completely useless against him. In this new hypothetical world, however, Netero, along with the Hunter Association, would decide to hire a different assassin to help him, Toji Fushiguro. And instead of a straight-up versus battle video, I believe a more interesting discussion to be had is what if Toji actually was placed into the world of Hunter x Hunter and hired to hunt down the Chimera Ant King, meaning he would have to traverse the world to East Gorto and eventually reach Meruem. In the world, after his seeming retirement from the Zenin clan into a life of obscurity, Toji could theoretically be considered the strongest back at the time he's introduced during and before the Hidden Inventory arc, where he defeats Satoru Gojo and Suguru Geto back to back. There are arguments that because he spent a lot of time preparing, and specifically wearing down Gojo in advance, that Yuki Tsukumo might also low-key be a secret top dog at the time, although she calls a nerfed Toji a superhuman that she wants to meet, so that's doubtful. But this rusty, out-of-prime, gambling addict Toji is really none the wiser and thinks he can pretty confidently handle whatever is thrown his way or requested, while he reluctantly takes most jobs solely for the convenient money. Due to this, Toji can really be placed in any world, even if he were hypothetically stronger or weaker than the top tiers, and not really change much of his character. That and making him an assassin for hire like the Zoldicks would make him the perfect Jujutsu Kaisen character to pit up against Hunter x Hunter, with his moveset and fighting style even being similar to the verse as well. He could be a secret Phantom Troupe member and wouldn't really feel out of place at all. It's similar to Hunter x Hunter in a lot of ways, with characters exceeding Mach speed pretty consistently, along with lightning tagging characters, and with some more advanced fighters probably requiring some maps to be redrawn a bit if they go all out. This, alongside Jujutsu Kaisen actually being inspired by Hunter x Hunter, such as the domain expansion being literally worded the same as the Chimera Ant dartboard game that Killua had to hone and encroach on his Godspeed amplification during to surpass, and makes these two verses actually quite good to match up with. Also, I won't lie, I've been looking for an excuse to talk about Hunter x Hunter again. It's been 3 years, and the most we've had is new chapters sprinkled here and there. Understandably, Togashi is not in the best of health, and hasn't been for quite some time. He even dropped a layout for potential endings were he to pass prematurely, which is kind of sad. Within the famous Zenin clan, one of the 3 special families in Jujutsu Kaisen, Toji Zenin, at the time, was the only one to ever inspire complete fear among their numbers. Toji Zenin, later known as Toji Fushiguro, was and possibly still is the most dangerous Zenin clan member to have ever lived. Having been born to Jinichi Zenin and an unknown mother, Toji was quickly discovered to have been, in the Zenin eyes, cursed with Heavenly Restriction, a power that removes all of his cursed energy in exchange for increased raw physical stats. Imagine the 8 inner gates for Rock Lee or Adult Gon, but it's more accessible to him. Instead of needing to be taught, and makes his base natural stats always amplified. Based on how Maki Zenin was treated and the few times we see Toji in his earlier years, we know Toji was heavily mistreated as a child, with his family even throwing him into a pit of curses as a boy, the place where he obtained his iconic scar. This mistreatment is what conditioned Toji into what he would later become. The abuse the Zenin pushed onto him isolated Toji and warped his perception of his own self-worth, along with his distaste for the world and sorcery at large. From his inner thoughts during his final moments, we find out Toji was trying to prove himself low-key, and Toji tried to validate his own existence to the world by defeating the strongest, Satoru Gojo. With this in mind, you can change the way you view Toji's arsenal. The inverted Spear of Heaven, a weapon that negates curse techniques, can be seen as a representation of Toji's desire to pierce through Jujutsu and kill whatever lies underneath, tying into his title as the Sorcerer Killer, whilst his Soul Split Katana can be viewed as symbolizing Toji and Gojo's battle, with Toji discovering the true essence of who he is, the true essence of his soul, as shown with Mahito and his realization at his conclusions. This weapon essentially ignores durability and attacks the soul directly, making him the perfect assassin to take down sorcerers, while being almost completely undetectable due to having no cursed energy. Toji is usually seen with a curse that floats around his body, which conceals his various weapons, knives, curse tools, and even a handgun. All of these things come to be incredibly handy when he's first shown to kill Gojo, who at the time was an anomaly for the verse. A sorcerer who wields the Six Eyes and Limitless technique, giving him similar powers to many strong characters from other animes. And comparatively, Gojo should kill Toji 10 times out of 10, but Toji, with his insanely high fight IQ, weird curses, tools, and ability to not be detected by sorcerers, gives him a weird and unique edge against Gojo during their battle. It's the age-old style makes fights comparison. It also doesn't benefit Toji that when it comes to physicality, he's no slouch, being able to completely overwhelm Megumi to the point where he doesn't even realize he's been moved to a different area and feels like he's being hunted down by a demon. His mere presence literally inspired Maki to go on a Kill Bill-style rampage of her clan, as she was born similar to Toji, having no cursed energy and being the black sheep of the Zenin. The way the anime depicts his power, especially in his reanimated prime, really solidifies this. He feels ridiculously fast and physically imposing. They even have a scene where he just casually turns his head and watches electricity coming towards him. On the flip side, Meruem is pretty much the opposite of Toji, someone who started from the get-go as favored by fate, given every blessing, loved by everyone around him, born an immense genius that surpassed pretty much everybody at birth. He would instantaneously grasp and usurp the entire power system of the verse with zero effort and was alienated for it. And as he slowly gained his humanity and as he interacted with more and more people, with his fateful encounter with Komugi, who changes his heart. This would put him at a standstill with the other side of the coin-like figure, Netero, who trained and worked hard to reach the point where he basically alienated himself from boredom, seeking the ultimate and perfect adversary to go all out against in his last moments, which would inevitably become Meruem. Meruem, who could see almost everything in reality as a series of calculations like a board game, and realized that Netero, even with decades of experience and peak skill in his respective fields, had a finite amount of moves he could make that the hyper-genius and superior Chimera Ant King could eventually adapt to, see through, and find to exploit after experiencing hundreds to thousands of attacks, adapting on the fly like a perfect killing machine born straight from nature itself. With that being said, both combatants are characters who seem to break through their fates with different methods, but are still opposite sides of a coin who reach their respective versus peaks at the time in dramatically different ways. One is born great, the other becomes great. But Meruem isn't the only ant Toji would have to face, as once he reaches the Overtaken Kingdom, he will be greeted by many potential enemies. So, with that out of the way, how far does Toji even get? How strong are these other ants he'll have to face? Does he even make it to the king? Most of the Chimera Ants that Toji is likely to encounter will be somewhat more powerful than you think at first. To put it into perspectives, the Hunter x Hunter equivalent of the Akatsuki, known as the Phantom Troupe, have to almost all use their ultimate trump cards against just a platoon of ants led by a Chimera Ant squadron leader rogue named Zazan. During this, Bono Lenov uses his battle cantabile Jupiter to defeat a Chimera Ant officer with literally no name. Still can't make that up, by the way, he has no name. This attack, called Jupiter, is calculated to produce anywhere around 4.4 by 10 to the 10 joules up to 10 to the 11, or about enough to destroy massive buildings. During this encounter, it's then stated that this nameless ant is fast by a Phantom Troupe member, but not faster than sound, evoking similar terminology as Dosu from the tuning exams in Naruto when he faces Rock Lee. Eventually, we see Phaeton Porter, this edgy character here, fight the actual Chimera Ant leader Zazan, and his sword strikes aren't even strong enough to penetrate her outer skin or shell, with his sword, while enhanced by Nen, actually shattering on impact. This battle reaches a high pitch, with Kaluto, Killua's sister, stating she can't even see them fighting whatsoever. Eventually, Phaeton unleashes his Rising Sun ultimate move and obliterates the entire Chimera Ant mock castle that Jupiter only blew a small hole in earlier. Should be noted that the strongest members of the Phantom Troupe, like Uvogin, can punch with the force of a missile, and dreams of being able to punch with the force of a nuclear bomb, which is stated in extra material for the manga. He's also able to catch a bullet with his teeth at point-blank range, which has been calculated would require anywhere from over Mach 5 to Mach 10 levels of reaction and linear speed, which is highly consistent with many other characters at this point, such as Base Kurapika being able to catch a string of assault rifle rounds with his chains without breaking a sweat. Killua Zoldyck being highly confident in being able to take on military wear such as fighter jets that can reach beyond Mach speeds, tanks, and so on. Even Killua catching a dart right at his forehead from the dart game would be around the same speeds as Uvogin catching a bullet in his mouth, though there are some higher interpretations I'll get into at the end, because what's actually going on in that scene is much more complicated than just that. All in all though, being able to scale the guys who can destroy large towns and being anywhere from Mach 5 to 10 seems to be enough to take down most of the normal Chimera Ants. It should be taken into consideration that they get amplified after Zazan's defeat by Shiapouf, a Royal Guard ant later on, with squadron leader Pitou actually being so fast he can react to bullets the moment they touch his hair at what is considered over Mach 20 speeds. So can Toji even carve his way through that? Are the higher tier ants even necessary? Because for those that have seen or read Hunter x Hunter, the way the royal ants are conveyed to us is far more not only impressive, but gives off an aura of absolute raw power, be it physical in regards of Nen, where they almost crush and solo the verse with just their aura alone, like their Yamamoto in Bleach. Scaling Toji is much different than scaling Sukuna and Gojo, which most people are familiar with. He tends to scale to Gojo before his true awakening and time skip, with characters like Awakened Maki now taking his place as to how well Toji would do in the current series if he were placed there. Which is still pretty impressive considering, spoilers, Megumi Sukuna with 15 fingers at full physical power but not curse technique power thought she was more impressive than enraged post-Shibuya arc Yuji, and it could be argued that while she scrapped and zipped around with 15-finger Sukuna like Dragon Ball characters, she was even suppressed. There is a bit of debate whether Yuji was tag teaming with her in this Dragon Ball-like scuffle, or if she did it alone and then Yuji followed them. Not really relevant, you get the idea. The reason she might be considered to be suppressed is she doesn't use her Soul Split Katana and just straight up brawls him. This was probably done on purpose by the author to make her and Toji's true strength compared to Sukuna a bit more ambiguous. If you compare this to Sukuna versus Jogo, you can get some interesting ideas as well, since Sukuna had 15 fingers against Jogo, like he did against Maki and Yuji, but with the ability to use curse techniques with full effectiveness. To go even further into this, it is stated that Toji could have wiped out the Zenin clan at literally any time he wanted, but not just like how Itachi did to the Uchiha in Naruto as an example. He would just straight up walk into their front door and solo stomp all of them worse than Maki did, who was still not even on Toji's level at this point. This would include a more prime Naobito, who we see brawling against Dagon, another disaster curse like Jogo. These disaster curses are sort of like the royal guards of Jujutsu Kaisen, with Yuji and Todo beating on Hanami, one of them, and the author Gege thinking they probably should have killed it there, with Yuji then later takes down Mahito alongside Todo later, and Maki is considered completely superior to Yuji while not even going all out after this. We then see Toji just absolutely obliterate a domain amp Dagon who created an entire island and possibly see up to a horizon curve with a huge atmosphere you can fall down from at almost terminal velocity. As a reminder, Dagon created this entire area you see on screen now, but Dagon's whole theme is being the curse of the sea, so the focus probably shouldn't be on the island, but the possible entire ocean around it he generates. While his domain is slightly nerfed by Megumi creating his domain within it, it's clear in terms of raw stats, Toji is probably above those disaster curses. I think most people would agree with that. From creating a meteor that makes Bona Lenov's Jupiter look like child's play, Jogo's meteor then arguably sets off a magnitude 5 earthquake that has enough energy to put him on a tier that can destroy small cities, even without his domain expansion. In terms of speed, we know earlier in the series Maki could react to bullets, although in the word of Gege themselves, this was probably a bit much at that time, but it's fine. Which makes most of the verse relatively slower than the average top hunter from Hunter x Hunter, with them treating bullets as fodder almost all the time. But Toji is far above Maki when she did that and is more comparable to the current Maki now, who has to evolve and surpass a Mach 3 Naoya. Mach 3 would be slower than most of the feats Hunter x Hunter showcased, that Neferpitou, one of the royal ants, would blitz and aura crush literally all of. So it's not that impressive. However, Maki does surpass said level. In my opinion, I think with the anime interpretation, and honestly a bit more of a consistent interpretation story-wise, Toji's speed is probably that of a lightning timer, which I will explain. Even against the likes of Naobito and Megumi, Toji seems to vanish from reality at will with his speed if he wants, with Naobito seeming to concede utter inferiority to him. Even while holding Megumi in his arms, he almost seemingly teleports out of the group with no technique. There's even memes that Jogo is waiting for Toji to leave around the corner before fighting the fatigued B team that fought Dagon in his domain afterward. The reason Lightning Timer is pretty reasonable is because in the newer anime canon, such as episode 40 Thunderclap, the anime staff and Gege themselves seem to want to make the series a bit higher scale and have more going on. During this, Megumi has to basically survive against Edo Tensei Toji hunting him down somewhat, and Megumi uses his Shinigami Nu to then shoot an electric discharge at Toji that Toji can seem to turn his head relative to, probably superior to, shown blatantly in slow motion. Now, we aren't sure if Toji can run around at that speed, but it shows his body can reflexively move at that speed even if at short bursts. Lightning itself is just an electric discharge from the sky, sort of caused by basically a divine-sized static electricity, with most considering electricity that contains joules on par with lightning to probably be around the same speed. Considering lightning isn't really all that powerful, most fictional characters using electric discharges tend to scale above it in terms of raw energy output and AP, unless you think that it's inconsistent for the story. However, it's more so further consistent with Toji being comparable to current Maki, who is considered a heavy hitter alongside Hikari, Yuta, and probably Kashimo. And during Hikari vs. Kashimo, Hikari clearly reacts and shifts his body out of the way of an electric discharge, with Kashimo being able to shoot these off and possibly amplify himself by using electromagnetic waves that some would argue would rival the speed of light later. Now, while we can't compare Maki to Cursed Amber Kashimo, and even then Kashimo's speed is debated about, we can at least compare her to Hikari and Yuta, with it being stated that she should probably be the one to off-guard and assassinate Kenjaku, who was considered their #1 priority and terror threat to the world at the time, even though he was weaker than Sukuna due to his evil plans. Once again, it doesn't make sense for Maki to be Mach 3, and then Hikari to be almost lightning speed, and then send Maki after Kenjaku. She would be so slow that it would be actually absurd. Although this plan to use Maki was eventually scrapped for a few reasons, and while we can't say objectively that Toji is a full-on lightning timer, I think it's reasonable. Whether you think he's vaguely above Mach 3 or a lightning timer, the outcome of the video is somewhat similar, so I'll go over both interpretations. I'm gonna be honest as well, to those that think he's barely over Mach 3, this guy was making bullets out of hundreds of pebbles with literal taps with hyper precision. I just don't know how I'm convinced of that, and Gege also seems to think that it's pretty dumb. There's also a later statement where Megumi compares Sukuna to Toji, but it's arguable how good of a narrator he was since he can't really see most of the movements that he's debating about. Toji is also fighting weird against Megumi and not killing him instantly in many instances that he could have. He actually seems to be kind of messing with him at certain points. Even if he is fighting on instinct, perhaps his instinct is to toy around. But it was just a bit of proof that he's being weird. Sukuna also seems to teleport around the city with just raw speed, so consider that as well. With that being said though, Toji would more than likely obliterate all of the lesser ants up to the squadron leaders, but once you reach the royal guards in the place at East Gorto in Hunter x Hunter, with scaling to more top tiers like Netero, Neferpitou, Youpi, and Godspeed Killua, and so on, the scaling gets another jumpstart. In terms of speed, this is when the series reaches a point where almost any interaction is like a Red Dead duel, and the slightest move is either instant victory or instant defeat. As an example, in their first interaction with Netero, Pitou activates their Nen ability Terapsakura to assault him in mid-air.
能力発動から攻撃まで要する時間は 0.1 秒を切る。しかしピトーはその狭間。確かに聞いた。そりゃあ握手だろう。アリンコ。不可避の速攻である。
And the downside to this activation is that Pitou cannot attack for 0.1 seconds afterward, and Netero calculates a plethora of moves Neferpitou would have made in this brief instance they came for him, and in that 0.1 second makes a full declaration and then mockery of Pitou, and then slaps them miles away before 0.1 second even finishes. In many animes and in many normies' perspectives, they always say, how could they be the speed of light or the speed of lightning, or where's the light though, you know?
Bro, how am I supposed to tell? I can't see the speed of light.
And it's always based on how these characters can talk so fast during such brief moments, but in Hunter x Hunter, that's just objectively stated. In other instances, such as during the death of Kite, Pitou launches from the Chimera Ant Queen's castle to the Hunter at what some would consider anywhere from Mach 30 to Mach 100, with Pitou then doubling the power used on Kite to go to the king's side as Xeno's Dragon Dive Storm assaults the palace with a barrage of arrows, implying they can leap from over Mach 60 to Mach 200 in just raw travel speed, let alone in a fight. Making Curse Naoya, that Maki had to unlock all her potential against, seem like it'd be frozen in time in comparison. Most characters in Hunter x Hunter don't have many destructive feats due to the stylization of the series, but the Royal Guard, Youpi, breaks the mold with this, by evolving from its battles against the Hunters and developing the Rage Cannon. This Rage Cannon vaporizes a large area from existence and has been calculated exerting over 467 kilotons of TNT, which is enough to destroy large towns. You have to remember most bombs in our world don't straight up vaporize things from existence and tend to pulverize or blow things away many times. This level of destruction Youpi shows is far more concentrated for its area than you might think it is, and replicating it requires more energy than you think it does. This is generally far above what most characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are capable of, said maybe the higher interpretation of Jogo's meteor making a quote-unquote magnitude 5 earthquake, which is somewhat dubious. And with Killua coming in, Killua, before his Godspeed unlock, is able to wield a Nen technique called Thunderbolt, where he straight up just launches lightning bolts at you with literal honed electricity. Eventually it's stated during the Dart game that Killua would have to be light speed to react to the darts hitting him and beyond all human capabilities if he weren't simply predicting where they'd appear in advance. This is similar to Megumi predicting Toji and reacting far in advance to his actual movements rather than straight up scaling to his speed in some instances. It is stated, by the way, that Killua is predicting where they would appear and not reacting flat out to their speed, but this statement is interesting still because Godspeed Killua is stated in the manga and the guidebooks afterward to then surpass human limitations, just as what was stated during the game. Godspeed Killua then has the Speed of Lightning ability where he enhances all his synapses with electricity to massively speed gap pretty much the entire verse. Even Youpi, who is over 10 times his power level, can't actually react to any of his combos, and in this instance, it's hard to say Killua is literally the Speed of Lightning, but I'd say it's likely for a few reasons. For one, the name of the ability is literally just that, but it would also be a bit weird if he didn't scale to his own electricity. The Speed of Lightning being over Mach 300 also lines up nicely as being over the Royals normally in terms of just raw calcs. It gets worse if you think that exceeding human limits means light speed, which Killua is stated to do in objective material, although I think over Mach 300 is very fair to say. This is relevant to the royals because Pitou, post-death, can revive using their puppet and rip Adult Gon's arm off, with Killua somewhat struggling to react. Then, with Adult Gon, who would scale above Meruem, possibly above his base form if you use the Yu Yu Hakusho remix guide on screen here, to being way above post-mortem Pitou and Godspeed Killua in speed. Meruem, after the Rose nuke from Netero, gets amped and nerfed simultaneously, and can whip out Youpi's Rage Cannon and fire an attack off that has been calced at being able to wipe mountains out of existence due to the sheer capacity it has to vaporize massive areas. In terms of how things would go, Toji would probably struggle quite a bit with the Royal Ants, and maybe possibly can slip by them entirely and just go straight to Meruem. However, if you lowball Toji to being less than Mach 10 in speed, which many people do, these ants would probably just blitz him, rip his tool out of his hand, and kill him with it, probably becoming worse. However, if you go with the more consistent lightning speed narrative, he can probably react to them with high difficulty and finish them off one by one with his split soul katana, which ignores conventional durability and attacks the souls themselves, which Hunter x Hunter doesn't have a lot of resistances to from our knowledge at the moment. He also has the inverted Spear of Heaven, which can pierce even Gojo's infinity-generated limitless barrier. The inverted Spear of Heaven is a Jujutsu Kaisen tool, and it mainly works on cursed energy, but if it was to be equalized for the verse and, say, ignore Nen and Nen-enhanced flesh or durability or techniques, it would be highly effective against dispatching the royals as well. With him only realistically having to face Neferpitou, who enshrouds the entire palace in N to sense intruders. N might work differently than most sensing abilities in anime, with it almost being like a blanket of energy that senses almost anything that moves within the energy around it, period. Due to this, it might be hard for Toji to sneak Pitou, but due to his probably higher power scaling and speed, he would probably win if he was. Toji is also a highly calculated assassin, isn't just some Sukuna or Dragon Ball type character who just wants to brawl his ops on sight. During his mission against Gojo and Geto, he specifically waits for them to be at a point of vulnerability before sneaking them, which took days of planning, waiting, and even baited them with fake hit list prices online. He no doubt would do the same against the Chimera Ants. In this case, probably waiting for Pitou's Enshroud to change or become distracted for whatever reason, especially if he's the reason and cause of the distraction. If he were to sneak Meruem with his Soul Split Katana due to his strategies, he would kill him in one hit immediately, and that would be the end of this video. But that is really stretching a lot of circumstances to Toji's favor, and depends on what kind of assistance he'd have to assault the palace. But it's not impossible for him to reach this point. If he has any hunter assistance or can even make a good distraction for the royals, he may be able to pull this off. But we are power scaling nerds, so let's just get to the point. Against Meruem, if he catches him and can defeat Pitou, Meruem, who we will simply scale to Rose Meruem for simplicity's sake, the battle would be much different than against a royal ant. In a one-on-one, Meruem is far more intelligent than Toji from what we've been shown, and treats reality like a supercomputer analyzing a board game. In fact, the only person who can beat him at a game at all is a girl who has a literal Nen super ability to just find solutions for one type of board game. During the battle against Netero, Meruem takes hundreds of thousands of blows and then finds an opening in Netero's limited human move pool that he's been training for decades to hone, and tears his limbs off one by one before even the Rose Amp. In this case, Meruem can launch a speed of light Enshroud that can detect Toji no matter where he is at all times, and would scale above Jogo many orders of magnitude with his Rage Cannon. He also is stated to surpass human limitations in the guides even in base, and is more comparable to Adult Gon in said base form, who can possibly be faster than Godspeed Killua. This Rose version might just be stronger and faster than Toji's normal scaling, with his intelligence ever evolving even within the midst of combat, with Toji's only win condition being if Meruem is caught off guard by Soul Split Katana ignoring durability. However, Toji can still outscale Meruem if you scale domain expansions to their users. In this case, Dagon creates a massive island enshrouded with an ocean of unquantifiable size and atmosphere, and Jogo himself creates molten mountains to house his victims in. If this were the case, Toji versus Meruem would become the reverse of Meruem versus Netero, with Meruem having to rely on speed instead, and hoping he can take the katana from Toji or else he has no win condition. Toji may also scale much higher if you think he scales to Yuki Tsukumo in the past, who is considered lazy and might not have really gotten much stronger during the time skip. And after the time skip, she can generate planet-wiping black holes that light can't escape from. And she considers Toji a superhuman. But that is the really, really high interpretation, as is Kashimo's electromagnetic wave scaling. If we accepted, can't really concretely compare Toji to at this time, even if you accepted it at all. All in all, Toji has a lot of tools and methods to win, and probably wins with decent difficulty and slight difficulty with the domain expansion scaling, and just kind of loses if you lowball him, and without that assassination, headcanon, DeviantArt fan story that you could make to even base Meruem. Other than that, that's all there is to really say. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was a pleasure talking about Hunter x Hunter once again. I also think it's kind of interesting that, we finally get a matchup where it seems Hunter x Hunter gets the win for once. So that was pretty enjoyable. All in all, I think that if you take away the domain expansion scaling, some people agree with it, some people think it's kind of wanky. If you take that away, the Disaster Curses versus the Royal Guard is pretty interesting. So I'm actually curious, who do you guys think wins with that lesser scaling? And other than that, hope you have a good rest of your day. And until next time.